We have had such an interesting time adjusting to RV life in hot weather conditions, and I'm going to share what I've learned. There are so many RVers and other nomads struggling in this heat right now. Some ACs are not keeping up, some are suddenly breaking in the middle of nowhere, and I find the sound of mine annoying and distracting sometimes, so I don't always like to run it, and I like to have other options. So I'm going to show you some things we've done over time to make things more comfortable with or without the air conditioner. I'll also let you in on some things we plan to implement that we haven't gotten around to yet in case you need even more ideas. If we haven't met yet, my name is Jessica. I am currently traveling the country with my husband David and our 2 cats. For context, we have a 2021 ATC Game Changer 2816 Toy Hauler. There are no special insulation upgrades from the factory and our specific unit that we purchased off the lot, but additional insulation is something we may consider DIYing in the future. Another thing we haven't done but plan to add is a product called Tropi-Cool. One reason we haven't done it yet is when we finally got around to doing it, it was sold out everywhere, and then we needed to get a noise checked on the roof, so we decided to hold off. Many other ATC Toy Hauler owners swear by this as a way to keep the inside cooler on hotter days. Our Toy Hauler roof is 1 sheet of aluminum, and so it is good at absorbing heat, and the Tropi-Cool coating helps to minimize that. You can read what others are saying about their experience with Tropi-Cool in the ATC Owners Facebook group. Use the search bar and type in Tropi-Cool, and there should be many threads. I will link that product as well as any other things I talk about in the description below so that you have it as a resource and reference guide if you need it. Now let's talk about the things that are already working for us. The positioning of how you park your RV at a campsite matters. This is super important if you're not running your AC, but it's still helpful if you are. Whenever possible, we make sure the nose and tail are facing east and west, and the sides are facing north and south. That way we're not getting the most intense heat coming through the windows, which is the least insulated part of our walls. We have no windows on the nose or tail of our toy hauler, so this works best for us. There's one more thing with positioning I want to mention before we get to number 2, and that involves parking under trees. I know that's not usually possible in the desert, but at this location we jumped at the chance. We do have solar to consider, but at this location there was a heat advisory and super high humidity, and we were off-grid and needed air conditioning. So we were able to whip out the generator and charge the batteries in between running the AC. The one creepy thing with this setup was I ended up seeing a snake slithering up a tree outside of our site, and at this point I started worrying about snakes falling out of the trees every time I went outside. This one must have been about 4 or 5 feet long. Let's breeze over the awning real quick, no pun intended. Obviously, it's a great tool. In fact, I wish we had one on both sides of our toy hauler. However, if you plan on spending any significant amount of time out west, don't expect to always rely on them. Wind gusts out west are no joke, and they can come out of nowhere and take out your awning. April is typically the windiest month of the year in Arizona, and that's also when things start to really heat up. In fact, there's really only a few months out of the year that are not windy in Arizona, and it was hit or miss with the awning for us, spending the entire winter and part of spring in the desert. That being said, when you can use the awning, it's a big help. And if you don't have an awning, there are some aftermarket alternatives that you can purchase to shield your walls and windows from direct sunlight. Number 3 is key if you don't have AC or you don't want to run it. It does require planning, and the idea is to shut the blinds before it gets hot, not in response to the heat. This will help to keep it cooler inside longer. We do let air in first thing in the morning. We open the blinds, we open the windows for a nice cross breeze, but before the sun gets too high, we shut the blinds either partially or fully depending on the sun. It's something we'll monitor throughout the day. We might keep the windows open on one side if there's a nice breeze coming in, or maybe the side that's less hot. The blinds do help to block the heat, but sometimes we still feel that heat radiating from them. And our solution to that is number 4. Reflectix in the windows made a huge difference for us. It was towards the end of February when we finally felt like we needed it, and we bought a giant roll and cut out coverings for every window and for both of our Maxx Air Fans. We used the Reflectix in the windows both with and without the AC. When we first started using them, they were held up by tape. Eventually, we bought these little suction hooks to hold them up, and they work great. We poked holes in the Reflectix with scissors to hang them. And what I also did, because I don't want to feel like I'm inside a dark box, is I poked holes in the bottom of the Reflectix so that I can fold it up And the little hooks can hold the bottoms too, so that I can still feel a nice breeze coming in, but have the top of the windows still insulated. And of course, we cover them with our blackout shades. The cats appreciate that too, because they love looking out the windows and feeling that fresh air blowing into their faces. If you've never experienced a Maxx Air Fan, you'd be surprised how much they can help suck out the heat and make things feel cooler. We have 2 in our toy hauler, but I do wish we had a 3rd in the bedroom. We did accidentally learn a little trick for creating a makeshift air conditioner with it, and I want to share that with you. What happened was we had hand washed some laundry while boondocking, and when we hung it out to dry on the clothesline, the bees went crazy. So we had to hang all of the wet clothes inside, and I ended up putting them on hangers and hanging them from the cabinets above the dinette in front of the window. And the air from the outside was being sucked in by the Maxx Air Fan through the wet clothes, giving us a cooling effect while we sat at the dinette to work. Even if you don't have laundry to do, a wet towel in the window could do the trick too. Number 6 is avoid cooking if at all possible, or at least do it outside when it's cooler. Otherwise, it's just going to heat the place up and make you feel warm too. Just eat foods that don't require cooking, like sandwiches, salads, hummus and veggies, fresh fruit. If you need more meal and snack ideas, let me know. I'd be happy to make a video giving you inspiration for your grocery shopping list. Number 7 is something I wished we had purchased sooner. It's a tiny USB chargeable fan that's not going to use up a lot of power or take up a lot of space. And we run it all night and it's still charged when we wake up the next morning. David picked this one up at Walmart, and normally I don't like fans, but I love this one, and so he picked up a second one. And they've been great to have next to the laptops while we're working or during bedtime on the nightstands. This particular fan has 3 speeds. It does not oscillate, but it is adjustable. Oh, and at the time that we purchased it, it was under $10. And the cats love it too. Number 8 is ice packs, and I have multiple uses for them for us and the cats. In order to save space, I don't keep a ton of gel packs around. We do have gel packs for the cats that we put under their beds on hot days because they tend to go for the warmest spot in the toy hauler for some reason. Let's say we have the AC on in the main area, they'll come into the bedroom. So the gel packs do come in handy. For me though, adding water to a freezer bag seems to work well. It was something I started doing when we were boondocking and I needed a nice pack and didn't have one. So I use them for headaches and also to keep cool. I hope you found these tips helpful. If you have a favorite, leave it in the comments.